Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff show. We are going to be talking about the incredible comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, December 29th, which is not a lot of comics with only 35 items total across the board on Final Order Cutoff. But that doesn't mean there isn't some amazing items that are worth your attention and worth getting orders to your local comic shop for. And with that, Kyle and I will also be discussing our big top 10s of the year of 2025. So stay tuned for that and more after these messages. Hi, everyone. I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you. All right. We have some awesome things to talk about for the final FOC, the final order cutoff of 2025, this Monday, December 29th. So before we dive into all that fun, Boxing Day. You do anything fun for that?
I'm working.
Ah, yes, you are.
I mean, I am here. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I just messaged a comic shop up here in Canada, and I was about to go off to a comic shop, and they're like, "Oh, we're closed on Boxing Day. We have our big end of year sale starting tomorrow." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I know what I'm doing tomorrow." But hopefully,
yeah, no, I've got a convention tomorrow, so it's one of those. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, it never does. I mean, we're going in between Christmas and New Year's Eve. It is right now the start of Kwanzaa, and we still have a final order cutoff. So it's that reminder: comic shop employees, owners, comic shop adjacent producers and convention, fellows. We never get to rest. It is nonstop. But hopefully, while you guys are enjoying some great vacation, recovering from Hanukkah, Christmas, or the start of Kwanzaa, you are ready to sit down and look at some amazing books. You're going to let your local comic shop know in their lack of rest, they need to order for you. And for that, do you want to show off the 2 websites that we use to find all the comics on FOC week after week? Now, if you're into Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Distillery, Boom Studios, Ignition Press, Kodansha, Square Enix, or others, you're going to want to use prhcomics.com. PRH is the home of Penguin Random House, which is one of the bigger comic distributors in the world right now. If you go to prhcomics.com, you're introduced to a wonderful website like this, where just a small scroll down, you see FOC for December 29th. Now, clicking that will get you onto this page where you will see all of the comics on FOC this week. And I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to spoil everything for you. Look at this. It is the shortest FOC week ever. 35 results. And why is that? Well, there's no Marvel. There's very little Dark Horse, very little IDW, no Distillery, no Boom, no Ignition. It is a small week. However, just to put it on your radar, because things return to normal next week, if you were a fan of DC, Oni Press, Image, Dynamite, and so many other great publishers that are not available through Penguin Random House because they are available through lunardistribution.com, you'd want to go to lunardistribution.com, scroll down a little bit to the upcoming FOC and make sure you're on the right date, which is not available this week because they took a week off. They were nice. They decided to give you guys a little bit of rest for the holidays. There has been no FOC from Lunar this week or last week. It all returns on January 5th, and you can see a hint of what the new year is bringing, some crazy looking covers. But we're going to get rid of that because nothing we have to worry about this week.
And remember, guys, like if you're watching this and you're going, well, if there's no FOC, then, you know, in 3 to 6 weeks, it's going to be a pretty light comic week. No, the way they handled this was they front load FOC in December. So you ordered, your stores ordered a lot of the books that will be coming out later in January, early in December. So all of that stuff has been ordered. There will be Marvel, there will be DC, there will be those publishers those weeks, but you don't have to worry about ordering them this week because you've already placed those orders with your local comic shop.
Absolutely. I did the most uncouth thing on live streaming ever. I just took a bite of food. But yes, a lot of what we're going to be FOCing this Monday is end of January stuff. And if you've been watching the show for a while, you know we talked about a lot of the end of January items at the beginning of December on FOC from PRH and Lunar. So I'd say with that, let's just dive into it. Let's get through these 35 items, and then let's talk about 2025 as a whole in comics and Final Order Cutoff. So the first one I want to talk about is one that I think has the highest potential of being skipped, American Caper. It is, I think, the one of only 2 items that's an actual ongoing floppy comic properly on FOC this week. Now, I loved American Caper #1. This is by the people who produced Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, and it feels like Grand Theft Auto in that it has all of the goofy, over-the-top American humor. All of the billboards that you would have loved in that video game exist in this comic. They have little good one-off jokes. As you get the tale of a lawyer and his family in the middle of America in what really is a modern societal commentary, but it's done so humorously that I think anybody can enjoy it, whether you're on either side of the aisle in this very divisive, era of American, history. This book is just a crazy, goofy, funny book. And Dan Houser and Laszlo do a great job. Here's the problem. Issue #1 dropped, great book. I think a lot of people picked it up. Issue #2 came out this past Wednesday, Christmas Eve. And I think a lot of shops and a lot of customers haven't had an opportunity. I own a shop and I'm out of town right now. I haven't had a chance to pick up issue #2 to order it. And I know that I want #3, but a lot of people might not have had the chance to solidify that. So this is very important to reach out to your local comic shop to say, hey, I know I haven't been into my shop to pick up issue #2, or I haven't read issue #2 yet, but I want #3. Because this is where Dark Horse, I feel, is making a mistake. And it could really botch the orders for issue #3 as people discover issue #2 early in January and decide I need this book, and orders aren't high enough for issue #3. It's why FOC is important, and FOC timing is important as well. But have you had a chance to read American Caper yet?
No, this is one of those books that I decided because of the release schedule, I was just going to wait on. So I have issue 1 in hand. I will get 2 and 3 probably. I will get 2 when I go into the shop next week and 3 when it comes out. But I probably won't start reading until either the mini series ends or issue 4 drops.
Ongoing series is the best part about it. That has me excited. But yeah, I mean, great cover. Simon Bisley doing that wonderful B cover as he's been doing for various issues. I mean, Dark Horse is putting a lot behind this. They're doing a lot to promote this, and it shocks me that this is the FOC, an FOC
Yep.
week where there is 35 titles and maybe 2 floppy issues. This seems like a mistake on Dark Horse's behalf, but I truly believe this book has feet, and I think number 3 could be a hard book to find if you don't let your comic shop know you want a copy set aside. This could be one of those ones where will Dark Horse go to a second printing? I don't know, but I guarantee you the order numbers will be way too low for a book with this high of a standpoint. I mean, the creators of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, running this. So another one going in a very different realm. If you want a great historical, educational comic book, and I'm talking about it is a comic book. This isn't a history book. This is not a prose textbook. This is a sequential art telling of the history of the war between Ukraine and Russia. It is a brief history of a long war done by Miriam Nam, as well as Yulia Vus and Ivan Kipida.
I think that's how you say it.
Is horrible. I'm not gonna lie, but it's 2 incredible Ukrainian artists, as well as a Ukrainian. I believe they're from
The whole team is the whole team from that part of Eastern Europe, right?
Afghan
So
Ukrainian
yeah.
journalist.
So this is again, this goes back to 2014 and the original, sort of overtures of what has become the thing we know is currently happening, right? So it goes all the way back and it's this long history, but it's really kind of a brief history when you think about that part of the world, right? It's a very short snippet of what feels like a very long process.
The
So
thing I love is it actually goes even further than that. It actually goes back to the Middle Ages and talks about the beginning of conflict between Russia and Ukraine way prior to the Soviet Union. But yes, the main focus, as you said, is going to be this very
right,
modern era.
right. So it's a way to sort of, if you're not someone who wants to sit and read the news, if you're not someone who wants to sit and read the actual reporting that's being done, but you want to understand this region and why this is the way it is, and the whole Donbass and Belarus and all of that of it all, this book will understand. Well, this book will help you understand all of it.
Yeah. I gotta say, this is a fun one and interesting one to point out because this has a history, I feel, between me and Kyle. Like where me and Kyle really started talking, I remember was we were in a chat during the pandemic when Kyle told me that Russia had invaded Ukraine and he had to leave the comic end to go work for a news company producing a segment about this.
We were in an after hours Zoom hangout with Boom Studios,
Yes.
and I got the news alert that it had happened and had been called to work on it. And I spent a couple of hours still in that Zoom call, just kind of working on another screen and updating the people in that Zoom. And then eventually I had to bail. But I remember that night like it was yesterday. I mean, I really do. It was a big deal. And it was, being in the position I was in at the time, was a very interesting position to be in as well. So
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a crazy concept how 2 people on completely different sides of North America could be so heavily, I mean, like I do iconically remember that night, influenced by this war happening on the other side of the world in, Eastern Europe and Asia. It's a crazy concept, but it is more than that. It is an example in that how this war can affect the entire world. And I think it is better if we are better educated. And even if you don't want to go through tons of textbooks discussing it with millions of people who are far more familiar than any of us, having a little hint through an amazing piece of sequential art is great. 10 Speed Graphic has done a number of great little history pieces and graphic novels focusing on history as a whole, but let alone the Ukrainian war. This, I think, will add another wonderful piece. And for $20 as a hardcover, this is well worth purchasing not only for yourself and your education, but as a $20 hardcover, this is the type of thing you can loan to friends. Now, look, this is a show where we often talk about selling stuff, and you know that your local comic shop would love to support you if you wanted to buy 5 or 6 copies. But even if you just bought one and handed it around, I think there's an educational value that isn't horribly biased in this. Obviously, this is a Ukrainian writer, but I think that they have done a great job in presenting these things from both sides. This is well worth a $20 investment and a little bit of raising the bar, not only in comics, but education. So, fun one from 10 speed, even if it's not necessarily the most fun topic. So, another big one I really want to talk up. Actually, I'm going to jump ahead because I had it under H, but it's Disney, is Hoppers. Hoppers is an upcoming Disney Pixar film set to release on March 6th of next year. It is the story of a young girl who, with technology from her local university, is able to put her mind into the body of a beaver. And in that, discovers the wildlife of the Midwest, of beavers, bears, and other animals. It is a cute, funny book, or a cute, funny movie. The trailer looks awesome. But right now, Disney is pushing on FOC all of the various Hopper books. The big thing I want to point out, these all are releasing at the end of January, more than a month, like a month and a week before the release of the film. So it might be a little early to stock up. It might not be the right time for you, but it could get you hyped. So it becomes the question of, do you want to commit to this? There are everything from little golden books, junior novelizations, the step into readings. There are sticker books, and there are more throughout this week's FOC. So if you think that this is going to be worth banking on, and let's be honest, when has a Pixar Disney film really failed? I'm sure Kyle has the answer to that, but I think this is something where this could be a cool one. It looks like it's going to be a fun movie. So check out the trailer. And if you or someone you love might be interested, there's a great way to get them some amazing reading material. All right. We talked a little bit about this before the show. Did you look into anything about the girl who draws on whales, Kyle?
I didn't. But this is a book that's been on my radar for a minute. Just because of the people involved with it. This is a book that is Ariella Christiana or Christiniana, or however you say it. I'm not 100% sure how to say it. They also did Adora, and they worked on Mata Hari from Dark Horse.
Yeah,
So this is
award-winning.
Yes, this is an artist whose watercolors have won them pretty significant awards. And I think the idea of having a Middle Ages book that feels like they're not being talked down to, that feels like they're being like they're talking up to these kids, is an important part. But this is a fantasy series set several centuries after the Great Flood. And sees people who live in a seafaring village, and a whale comes to the town, wounded, dying, alone. And
Well, I
this
think
whale has
one of the key things to point out is, like the title says, it's about a girl who does draw on whales, which isn't a metaphor. It is a young girl who draws on whales, and the whales let her do this. And the cool thing is, well, she draws all these things on whales. Now and then, the whales will come with other drawings that she and the people from her village didn't do. So, as you were saying, Kyle, a whale comes.
I was trying not to spoil all the details, man.
Sorry, I was trying to set you up a bit more.
No, I'm trying to leave stuff out so there's a reason to read the book. So this whale, and now I've completely lost my train of thought. So
yeah,
the idea is that the way these people understand the world is not the full picture of how the world actually functions. right? There are other people who these whales treat equally to the people of this village and this girl in particular. So the idea of understanding that you're not the only person with your abilities, you're not the only person with your skill set, you're not the only person with your connection to the world around you is super important. And so when you find out one day because a whale comes in with a drawing on it that you don't recognize, or when a whale comes in a situation that you don't recognize, you have to understand quickly where your relationship is with the world around you, and it helps you broaden your horizons. This is one of those that um, you have a lot of expectations for the artist, and this book comes with a lot of expectations because of how good Adora was, because of how good Matahari was, because of how good some of the other things these people worked on were. So I think this is a great opportunity to introduce young people, especially the people who are coming into comic shops now, have after having graduated from the Dogman Captain Underpants generation, to high quality, high art, high concept books. And if you guys know me, you know that that's my jam. So that's the girl who draws on whales.
Yeah, it absolutely looks amazing. It's definitely something that it sounds like one of those high end, like this could be a Miyazaki meets Moana-esque film. So I'm very excited about it. I think, I mean, you don't really get a lot of original Dark Horse graphic novels that always draw me in. I do love them, but it's few and far between. This is definitely one that is 100% going on my list of FOC ads. And I think it has a lot of potential to be a great shelf selling book. The books that sell right off the shelf. So here's one I know you want to talk about: Head Cleaner.
Yeah. So Head Cleaner is a prose horror sci-fi book set in the last Blockbuster. Sorry. The last video rental store, the last Blockbuster. You have a number of staff at the Blockbuster, and they're going after one last big bill, right? They're holding on by a thread, and these folks have to collect what has become an internet famous overdue fee for a VCR rental. I know. Who has a VCR anymore? Anyway, what they find is that this VCR has been empowered with the ability to end or to change the endings of popular films. And depending on what the film is, potentially change the real world. If you are in a nonfiction film and you change the end of the film, it changes history, is what they find. And so they are trying to figure out the best use of this knowledge and where it goes from here. And the reason this book kind of struck me is that I am a big fan of D&D live play. And Dimension 20, which is the D&D live play campaign on Dropout TV, did a series called Never Stop Blowing Up, where a very similar story takes place. And what I like about this is that this is a little more grounded in reality, whereas that is a little more grounded in fantasy. But the whole thing is so fantastical and such a throwback to like my youth, right? When we had to be kind and rewind. That you have this opportunity here to really have a nostalgia story with a whole new feel to it.
Yeah, I mean, everything from the cover of this trade paperback onward, it just screams that like 80s, 90s culture, and I'm certain the references throughout it will be phenomenal. Like, I am 100% into this. Now, I want to remind everyone this is not a graphic novel, this is a prose novel, so it's just text, and yet I feel it's going to suck me in. I'm for it. I'm shocked how on the final FOC of the year, with such a small number of items, how many like last minute additions of things I didn't go into this week thinking I was going to add to my list, I'm going to have.
Well, and it's because, I tend to lean into the novels and the art books and some of that weird stuff. And every time Matthias is like, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" I'm like, "Okay, so there's this and there's that and there's this other thing. And then there's this thing that you're definitely not going to be able to sell in your store, but you're going to want to read for yourself." So,
And one of those things,
I am George Washington. So,
all right,
this is one of those go ahead. This is one of those famous people books, right? The Ordinary People Change the World books. This originally came out in 2016. Brad Meltzer, who, if you're a Ghost Machine out there working on first Ghost for Ghost Machine, just throwing that out there. Brad Meltzer did as part of that Ordinary People Change the World series. This is a re-release with a new cover that comes out next year, celebrating the America 250 celebration, the semi-quincentennial of the United States of America. And so this is a great opportunity to grab a book for a young person to kind of be like, hey, I don't know how much you hear about the news, and sometimes it's big and scary, but here's where all of this started from. And this guy who could not tell a lie and had wooden teeth, even though we all know that's not true, and but who was super important to founding the United States, was just a regular person who did an extraordinary thing. This is a great book for that.
I mean, on top of that, I will always love Brad Meltzer from, some of the greatest New York Times best-selling novels. He is somebody who has been gracious to both sides of the aisle once again in this very decisive thing. He has been invited to the White House under several different presidents of both parties. He has a wonderful PBS TV show based around this concept of books. And he still does these really great mature mysteries. He's done some of my favorite comics from Green Arrow and Justice League. Brad Meltzer is a brilliant writer, but I do love that these are great not only for a kid, but I have watched adults be educated from the I Am series. These have great details. This one even features a timeline of George Washington, and as he is the founding president and one of the founding fathers, one of the key members of the foundation of the United States of America, coming into the semi-quincentennial. Did I get that right, Kyle?
Yep.
Semi-quincentennial. This is a great book to just have. $10 for a book that literally is perfect for everyone.
It's easier just to say America 250.
America 250. I do like that. If that is not already a thing, somebody needs to hire Kyle on the.
No, that's the organization. The organization that's overseeing the celebrations of the semi-quincentennial, that is the nonpartisan organization, is America 250.
There it is. I like it. All right. Now, if you want to keep with American history and go for something a little bit more mature and modern, but still great for most ages, is March. This is the biography of John Lewis, done by John himself, along with Andrew Aiden, and incredible artwork by Nate Powell. It has released originally over 3 trade paperbacks from IDW and Top Shelf. It talks very heavily about the civil rights movement, the Jim Crow Acts, a lot of key parts of the 20th century that defined what brought us to a modern day America and are still relevant to this day. John Lewis, unfortunately, no longer with us, but his story has never been more relevant as we go into the modern era. And I'm glad that March is getting an omnibus collection. So one binding, the entire story, including additional content, not new story, but index pages and other analytical pieces that add to it. And at a ridiculous price. I mean, Kyle, first off, you were talking about this is not an easy book to source nowadays.
Right. The individual issues, the individual trade paperbacks, right? And you do have to read them almost as though they're issues, right? Like volume 1, volume 2, and volume 3 are getting harder and harder to find. They've not been in print for a minute. They've been sold out. And when they wind up at some place like a comic book shop or a secondhand bookstore or a one of those, they don't last very long. So even if Matthias were to log in right now and be able to order some because they found them in a warehouse somewhere, from a distributor, they don't last that long. They don't sit on shelves very long. So to have an omnibus version where you can pick it all up for one price, which by the way is about a third of what you're going to spend for all 3 volumes. I think they're each $20. You're getting an omnibus printing. You're getting one bundle of everything to tell the whole story plus the additional content. So this is an easier way to attain what is becoming a harder and harder graphic novel series to get.
And I mean, it's also a book I'm constantly worried, it does get challenged. That could be, that there could be groups trying to censor this. There could be groups trying to ban this book. I believe it might have actually been banned by a few groups, but this is an important piece of American history and great reading. I mean, not only was this a congressman, Congressman John Lewis, this is a civil rights figure. This is a man who marched alongside Martin Luther King. This is a man who helped shape American history and talks a lot about American history, not just from a political level, but from a on the streets level. An amazing read. The fact that we can get the paperback. This was 3 trade paperbacks you can get as a single paperback now for $23 in softcover, $40 in hardcover. Either way, you're looking at an amazing value purchase, a very significant book. This won countless awards, not just comic awards. This won a National Book Award. I mean, this is a must-read, powerful piece. And for people who love sequential art beyond just tights, capes, and cowls, this is a must-own graphic novel on your bookshelf, sitting alongside books like Watchmen and Mouse. So no reason not to get an order in. No reason for your shop not to stock this. This is an important comic to have. So 2 different ways you can get it, both releasing at the beginning of February for Black History Month, the perfect time on that as well. $23 trade paperback, $40 hardcover. I mean, what was it about, like $15 a trade originally? So the
Something like that, 15 or 20. Yeah,
the savings alone. All right. I believe our only other single issue on FOC is the final issue of Mary Sue coming from Boom Studios. So I was wrong. Boom does have a book. Oh, no, I take it back. We have Mary Sue and Powers 25, number 5 from the incredible Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oming, as well as the awesome Joshua Reed on lettering there. So we have a great continuation of a few other single issues. But the one I want to talk about next is one that I've hinted at, I've spoken a little bit on over the past year, is Kevin Smith's Quick Stops. This is volume 3, and I think a lot of people could very easily think, well, I don't have volume 1 or volume 2. Do I need volume 3? Yes. If you are a fan of the View Askew universe, of Kevin Smith, of any of his films, this is a must-own. This is the first new Dogma story as Jay and Silent Bob team up with the Metatron, which is amazing. You get some incredible stories that Kevin Smith wrote about Shannon Doherty, not only the actress who unfortunately passed away too early due to breast cancer, Shannon Doherty, but also her character in the films. Kevin does great stories for both routes on that. You get the story from the Chasing Amy movie, the comic that we never actually got to see is finally written in here. This is just an awesome one. If you love Kevin Smith and you love the various movies from Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, and Jay and Silent Bob, this one is a must-own. It's a $25 hardcover for 4 issues. You get a beautiful new mini comic in the way of a cover of Kevin Smith basically selling you on this. I think it's amazing. I have enjoyed all of the volumes and single issues of Quick Stops, but this 4-issue collection that makes up volume 3 is the best. And you literally, if you've ever watched a Kevin Smith film, you don't need to read anything other than this hardcover. This is just like DVD extra features, deleted scenes, and fun content for those of you who want more of all of these great characters that Kevin created. And it's all written by Kevin, not ghost written, not anything like that. Kevin doing his love of comics right there, writing it. So fun stuff. In a completely opposite thing, because it just seems to be the theme. We just go one thing to the dead opposite. Serendipity. This is by Gabby Benda and is a great all ages book, but more targeted towards the middle grade, kind of, middle school drama of it all. This is about a young girl who is the luckiest girl. She's, of course, the smart kid, head of her class, wins every contest, every raffle, every radio show. However, on one of those radio contests where she gets tickets to an event, she ends up accidentally being cursed. And in that curse, all of her luck disappears. She is now the unluckiest person. Permanent bad hair day, never wins anything. All the bad things you imagine and equate to just one bad day and just being unlucky, that's every moment of her life from then on. So the question becomes, what is luck? Was she ever truly lucky? Is this something you can be cursed with? Do you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed one day and everything goes sour? Or is that more about how you live your life? Obviously, a classic setup, but a perfect one for younger readers. It can be fun for all ages. I believe it is a hardcover and a softcover. Yes, so hardcover is $25, softcover is $15. This just seems like a fun one for younger readers, particularly those who aren't after the cape, cowl, and tights concept that want a great piece of sequential art. Perfect for the cat sitter crowd, anybody who loves, like Turning Red and other ones like that. I think this will be a fun graphic novel for fans like that. Kyle, you still with me to talk a little bit of Star Wars?
Yeah, I'm just trying not to sneeze on camera.
Okay. So my last big one I want to talk about is Star Wars Hyperspace Stories, The Tides of Terror. This is written by George Mann, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite Star Wars novelists. Him and Kevin Scott work together and do some amazing stuff. They are some of the people who did a lot of the great work with the High Republic. George also did a wonderful Life Day novel and some other amazing pieces for Star Wars. And he will be the one who starts the comics for High Republic Phase More in 2026. Hyperspace Stories, Tides of Terror, however, was his wrap up of 2025 as we get Mace Windu and Kit Fisto, as well as Kit's Padawan, going into an adventure deep beneath the waves of an ocean planet where they must fight a giant sea serpent. It is a great story, and I mean, there is not enough tales with Mace Windu, one of the greatest Jedi out there. So, Kit Fisto, Mace Windu, I don't feel I need to say more. This is a wonderful graphic novel. You're going to get the entire series for just $20. And it is a must have for any Star Wars fan, whether you are a 6 or a 7-year-old or a 70-year-old Star Wars fan. If you loved any of the Jedi of the prequel series, this is a masterpiece in fun Jedi comics.
Anytime you see Kit Fisto, buy the book.
Yes, always. I remember actually specifically talking with a great comic creator, Tony Fleeks, who everyone knows from Stray Dogs and Feral, about doing a cover for this book. And I had to make the mistake of saying, you know, Kit Fisto. And then he just walked me through the list of Kit Fisto's accomplishments as a Jedi. And I realized, okay, everyone knows Kit Fisto. My bad. But absolutely fun. Some great books once again. It's only 35 books and items total on FOC this week. Well worth just perusing yourself on prhcomics.com. Don't forget to get a list of everything you want, as well as specific covers, to your local comic shop. The sooner the better, but definitely before Monday, December 29th. I think, though, that's all we have to talk about on FOC. I would like to take this moment, though, to talk about the last year we've been doing the show. 2025 has been perhaps one of the most interesting years in memory for comic ordering. Final Order Cutoff has never been more important, as I think a number of retailers aren't even doing initial orders. Publishers are no longer pushing information to target consumers or even retailers at initials. They're targeting towards Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance, as we say every week, to finalize your orders, to get your orders into your local comic shop. And it has never been more important, which is why we have appreciated you guys coming in week after week and joining us for this show. Getting your orders to your local comic shop and spreading the word on this. But it still needs to be done because as we enter into 2026, there isn't any comics coming from Diamond that are new books. We are seeing the growth of universal distribution, not only being a Canadian distributor, but now an American distributor. We are seeing the rise of new distributors like Filbo and others that are working on indie books. And then, of course, Penguin Random House and Lunar Distribution sitting at the top. But still, it is important that you reach out and communicate with your comic shop and your comic shop reach out with you to make sure that everyone gets the comics they want, because it's not as easy as it was in 2024 and before. So,
yeah, we say the same 5 lines every week, and you've heard them ad nauseum from us. It's not changing anytime soon. So what I will say is this: if you're for some reason not getting the books you want, it's on you at this point. We told you. Call your local comic shop and let them know what you want. Right? At this point, local comic shops have figured out the system that they live in right now. That system will continue to change. They will continue to figure it out. The only way that you're going to get what you want as a consumer is to tell your local comic shop. And the only way local comic shops, if you're listening, are going to be able to make their consumers happy is to listen to what the consumers are saying and order based on it, right? Like the days of being able to order shelf copies of random books because Diamond was floating you or whatever are gone, right? The days of being able to go through one big previews catalog and circle things like it's 1967 and you got the big catalog from Sears and Roebuck are gone, right? Retailers have to listen to what the consumers are telling them they want, and consumers have to tell their retailers what they want and do the research so that they know. So it's very much becoming a symbiotic relationship that maybe didn't used to be. So just make sure you're paying attention. You're on the cutting edge of that. Now,
and if you want to include us, I can definitely bring up at least 10 points over the past year that we have, hopefully provided you guys with some great information. I think Kyle can too.
Exactly. Which is why I think now that we managed to talk for 45 minutes about less than 35 objects, less than 35 items on order, we should get to our top 10.
All right. Now, this top 10, we're not talking about the top 10 items on FOC this week. Again, there was only 35. We're going to talk about our top 10 items of 2025. Books that we talked about, that we promoted to you guys, and that we think help shape this year in comics. And hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, you might still be able to get from your local comic shop. Yes, this is also a proof of concept of why this show is important. Why should have. Now, we're going to start it off each with a prediction of what we still think is worth ordering. This coming Wednesday, after FOC, Ultimate Endgame #1, the blind bag hit stores. We talked this up and promoted it to no end earlier in the fall because that's how early we had to FOC it. Your stores likely ordered heavy on this, and we're hoping this is still a success. I think it is, because these blind bags not only bring the start of the big end game for all the Ultimate Universe, but they can have all of the ratio variants. They can have all sorts of amazing covers. They can have exclusive covers to them, and they can even have original artwork sketches by big name creators like Peach Momoko in those bags. I've been hearing news from stores that are opening the bags early to check that there are issues, and I've been hearing some that there aren't. So it is one of those things that I would not entirely trust the social media of this. This still has so much potential and could be so amazing. I'm going to say it is so amazing. So talk with your local comic shop. See if you can still get copies set aside if you didn't already order some. I'm predicting this is going to be the big end cap, literally coming on the last day of the year, January 31st.
Yeah, I think rumors of this book's damage have been wildly exaggerated.
Thank you, Mark Twain.
All right. My prediction is Comics the Magazine #1. This hasn't even FOC'd yet. It'll FOC in January for March release. This features the Nick Dragotta cover, Absolute Batman, mixed with the great kind of stylings of Rico Renzi, who is the art director of the book. This Comics Magazine is edited by Joe Keating, Eisner winner. Joe Keating. And the whole idea of this is to give you a place to go to find out what's cool in comics, to give you stories, to tell you what's happening. Think Wizard Magazine when Wizard Magazine was still good before it got dumb. And every month, this book will have the Pullbox Power Rankings and other comic industry data that will help you as a consumer and comic shops know what's happening. Right? What people are excited about, what's selling well, what's, what maybe you might not be seeing is working, but is working other places. There'll be great creator interviews. There will be tons of great stuff in this. Now, it comes with a cover price of $2.99, but if you let your retailer know now, like, again, this is one of those, hey, give them a nudge. There are bundles available of this that will get the price down so far your local retailer may choose to give these out for free as promotional items. So, might be worth reaching out to them and being like, I want one. I know other people are going to want one. Maybe go ahead and order the bundle.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the spiritual successor, you'd say, of Zdarsky Comic News, correct?
It's literally, yes. Without getting too far inside baseball, right? It's a lot of the same folks from Zdarsky Comic News. So it is definitely worth checking out for sure.
All right, let's do our honorable mentions before we start defining things with our top 10. And mine has to be the big news of 2025 has been Marvel and DC crossovers, DC and Marvel crossovers. We had Deadpool, Batman, Batman, Deadpool. Going into 2026, we'll have Superman, Spider-Man. But the big one that I think deserves a lot of attention, not everyone had the chance to get, but it made a lot of comic shops and bookstores a lot of money. It was the DC versus Marvel Omnibus. And I wanted to point out the one that was exclusively for comic shops, the direct market exclusive, which featured a Jim Lee cover with Jim Lee drawing new artwork of DC versus Marvel characters, reprinting that 1990s crossover. It is so unbelievable and yet absolutely amazing and satisfying to see these two juggernauts on the same page in the same binding once again. And this was a really cool way to get it. If you didn't get a chance, reach out to your local comic shop. Hopefully, fingers crossed, they still have the ability to, provide you with one. Otherwise, this was a masterpiece, and I am so thankful to both DC and Marvel for putting aside whatever beefs they've had in the past to come together on this.
It's almost like when you realize you can make a lot of money, you can work with people.
Who knew?
All right. My honorable mention, again, Mathias already talked about a blind bag. This was the year of blind bags. So many blind bags. For me, it was the TMNT blind bag, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #13. This is the start of the Gene Yang story arc, taking over for Jason Aaron and Joelle Jones. It was a great book. The blind bags maybe were a little bit less gimmicky than you'd seen with some of the others, including some more that are on the list. Because it was just a kind of a normal set of ratios and variants and things like that. But this was a very good one, and it's a great kind of introduction to the blind bag Mishigas for people who aren't already part of that. I'm trying to come up with a word here that doesn't say dumbness, but dumbness, right? So many blind bags this year, and a lot of the heat was surrounding, oh, I got a 1 in a million sketch cut. Yeah, that's great. It's fine. Guess what? This you're just going to get a cool Turtles cover. Well, there's still cool stuff in here, but this is one where if you give it to your 5-year-old nephew, you don't have to worry about him potentially wrecking something that's worth $50 or $100 or $500. You know, this is more accessible. So that's why I chose this as my honorable mention.
And I got to give some credit to this. I actually had to outright reach out to Ryan Balcom, who's head of sales over at or at IDW Comics, and congratulate him on perhaps one of the better blind bags. The things they did right. This is the same price as a normal cover, so you're not missing out. If you open this up and get an A cover, you literally lost nothing. This is great. You get that fun of what's inside. It could be anything. You could get any of the ratio variants. You could get a 1 in 100 or higher in this for the same price you got an A cover. The other thing I love about this, there were exclusive items to this. I got really lucky and opened a Raza cover. My wife got really lucky and opened a Zerti cover. And I also opened an A cover. But I wasn't complaining. It was great. A lot of people who did invest in these walked away with some really fun items. And I don't think it was in any way a bank breaker. Yes, there wasn't the most insane thing of an original sketch, but this was just this is an example of how blind bags should be done. Well, it didn't rank into our top 10. This is definitely deserving of the honorable mention.
All right. Let's get into the top 10. So Mathias did one, and then I did. We're going to alternate here. We had different top 10s. We had some of the same things on our top 10s, but they were different top 10s. So here we go.
All right. We're going to start off with Pop Kills. We had the honor of interviewing Jimmy Palmiotti at the beginning of 2025 about this amazing mini-series of two warring soda companies and their craziness. It is a fun, over-the-top series. It lasted 4 issues. It went to multiple printings, and it is still surviving to this day with the new seasonal variants and facsimiles. We just had a Christmas reprint of number 1, and next year we're going to have a Valentine's reprint of number 1. This is the little indie series that could, being an original, I want to say Kickstarter or otherwise crowd-funded comic that got picked up by Mad Cave and shows you how you can do both. Jimmy and Amanda and Johnson and all of them put together a perfect piece right there. I love this comic. Again, crowd-funded, creator properly paid, yet also mass market through Mad Cave. It made comic shops money. It made creators money. It gave us a lot of wonderful covers. There was some unbelievable aftermarket value on some of those covers that made the collectors money. This is an epitome of just good comic publishing. So if you haven't already read this, the trade paperback is available now. You can get it through Lunar Distribution, or you can still get those facsimiles with the upcoming Valentine's Day.
All right. Assorted Crisis Events number 1. This is the Stepan Morian cover. Assorted Crisis Events, I don't want to say Dennis Camp came out of nowhere, but Dennis Camp came out of nowhere. Like, if you knew Dennis Camp coming into 2025, you knew Dennis Camp, right? But it was like, you kind of had to know, like, and the guy had a year, you know, between this and Absolute Martian Manhunter and a bunch of other really successful series. Dennis Camp put on a fantastic year. And Assorted Crisis Events, as a creator-owned image book, has been a really, really fun series. Storytelling, right? But these Stepan Morian covers, and Stepan has done a few, not every issue, but he's done a few, have always been super humorous to me. Like the guy there with the end time sign upside down and things like that. So if you're going to read Assorted Crisis Events at this point, grab the trades. But this was a cover that when I saw it was the reason I picked up this book. And it got me addicted to a really good story from someone who, again, I want to say, in my opinion, has had one of the best years writing that we saw.
Yeah. I also gave a shout out to Eric Zawadzki, who did a great job on art on that. I don't think he gets talked up.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right. So number 9 hit a tie for me. It was 2 brand new series that I thought brought a lot of attention and did some amazing work on the indie end. And both of them, thankfully, we also had creators talking up on our FOC show in 2025. Karina Becko's Sister Imperator brings the world of Ghost the very popular metal band, to a comic storytelling. And it brought new people into the comic shops that I had never seen before, coming in demanding these books. It led to a great aftermarket value. If you listened to us and ordered up on the book, you obviously made quite a bit of money, whether you just sold it at cover price or you were somebody who was buying it to flip on the aftermarket. Sister Imperator was a great 4-issue series, and I hope we get more from Karina, who is also, well, a longtime creator, is a rising star coming out of 2025 with some big announcements for 2026. Then you have Exquisite Corpses, where you've had superstar James Tynion IV bringing together his best friends into the Corpse Crew, a group or a collective of amazing comic creators doing an awesome story. They combined some of the love of blind bags with these blind bag card games, where each issue comes with a card that you can put together to play an active game. We had Michael Walsh come and talk up Exquisite Corpses on the show, and this has been an amazing mini-series. Well, it's not even a mini-series, an ongoing series with its first year coming to a wrap-up soon. I think this has been an amazing Hunger Games meets Battle Royale style murder mystery with crazy, crazy outcomes. Exquisite Corpses and Sister Imperators have both been brilliant, mature books for mature readers who like indie comics. And I think both have done a notable realm of drawing people into books they might not normally get, drawing people into the comic shop, and really promoting mature, non-superhero storytelling.
Absolutely. All right. So for me, number 9 is I Hate Fairyland. Just at all. I don't really think I need to sell you guys on Scotty Young and I'm going to blank on his name now.
Loftman?
Who's doing yes. I don't think I really need to sell you guys on this, but some of these covers this year have been particularly great, including this one. And there was the Jay Fosgate issue that Jay did the cover for, and just a bunch of really great storytelling happening in this book. And the covers themselves are telling a story. Every one of them is a kind of a different story on the cover itself. So I thought this was a great one to throw in, just because also this feels Christmassy to me. So really been enjoying I Hate Fairyland this year.
Absolutely. Amazing, amazing series. I cannot wait to see how it goes in 2026 as we hit issue 50. But let's talk about hot books. And one of my favorite things are open order covers, where we tell you guys about these books in advance of their release. You can order as many as you want. It's not a ratio variant. It's nothing gated. It's not limited one per store. We tell you this is going to be a hot book. You can order as many as you want, and then they skyrocket on the aftermarket. Wolverine number 8 by Daniel Warren Johnson, which was also Wolverine 400 technically, was one of those cases. Beautiful piece by one of the hottest artists of the year, Daniel Warren Johnson being the guy from Transformers. He did that amazing Absolute Batman annual. Everyone loves Daniel Warren Johnson. He did this Wolverine 8 cover that we talked up on the FOC show. It was a $5, $6 book and is now a $70+ book on the aftermarket. It skyrocketed. It went to second printings with this specific artwork. We even fought to make sure that this was the one that got the second printing cover, not the one in 25. And everyone loves it. It was a great way to dive into Wolverine with issue number 400. Everything about this was perfection. And this is one of those reasons why we always want to remind everyone, FOC. This cover showed up a little bit before Final Order Cutoff. So if you weren't paying attention to the show or reaching out and checking out with FOC and placing orders at your store, you've likely missed out on this. This is a reason to watch this show. This is a reason to place these orders. Because, man, if you bought 5 copies of this, woof, you made a great profit or have an awesome comic collection this year. But even if you just got one, I'm certain it's a gem in your 2025 collection.
High Strangeness, number 1, Dave Chisholm cover. Okay. High Strangeness actually ranks in my top 5 books of the year. But it isn't over yet. So it falls down a little bit, only because it isn't over yet, and I'm going to put it on the list next year. So just as a thing. So this is a great story. One of the things you're going to find in my top 10 is that a lot of these stories are unique concepts, right? Matthias has a lot of your superheroes, your underwear on the outside superheroes, and even your not so underwear on the outside superheroes. This, for me, the books that really rank highly for me are the books that I can't predict, are the books that I don't know where they're going, stories I've not read before. And so High Strangeness for me, it epitomizes that. This is a concept in terms of the Men in Black that when Torma was telling us about it, I'm going, wait, Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith? And then he starts telling me about the actual thing, and you go down the rabbit hole on the actual Men in Black, and then you start reading this book. And it tells a great story about, interactions with those characters. So I had a tie here, and I deleted one of them because I decided it was going to be its own book, and then I decided not to, which is also Michael Avon Oeming, Red Book.
Yes.
With Tinian, which is about space aliens in Russia. So again, like these books that are unique stories that I don't know what's coming, I can't predict the ending. I don't, kind of have a way to grasp on, and I just have to be along for the ride. Are the best books for me, Stacy. The best part of this one is that it's a wholly unique story concept, and that the issues connect, but you could totally see where each person's story is different from their own perspective. So really well written, really well put together book.
And I got to say, I love, once again, this is another one where we had a creator talking, or well, in this case, a publisher talking it up. So I got to ask you, Kyle, when Torma was on the show during FOC for High Strangeness, were you as hyped for it then, or was this more of once it was in your hand?
I had already ordered it by then.
Oh, I love it.
But again, like we talked about this earlier, I go through FOC on my own, and I tend to gravitate towards these books that I don't think are going to necessarily be the books we talk about on the show, that I don't necessarily think are going to be the books that shops are racking big numbers on, right? They're the books that I like. So the more art books, more high concept books. So I had already ordered this one, but then Torma started talking about it, and I got real excited.
Yeah. So I know you already gave me credit of targeting specifically the underwear on the outside, or the, superhero books. Let's talk about some books where it's just superheroes with just underwear. These were two that landed in the top 10 on each of their respective FOC weeks for me, and have blown up, not only on the aftermarket, but outside of comic shops entirely. People are trying to track down these. Batman and Superman World's Finest 35, which was the incredible Chris Anka sweater weather cover, featuring Superman and Batman enjoying a bit of a jacuzzi in the Antarctic, as well as Nightwing 130's Kevin Wada cover, which was the pumpkin spicy variant. I love both of these covers, and I am not alone. The love for sexy male comic characters is clearly something the aftermarket is adoring, because that Batman Superman World's Finest 35 is a $200+ book on the aftermarket. $200+. You go check eBay sales, and they sell for over $200, hand over fist. And this was something that was in our top 10. I recommended that you could buy outright at FOC for $5, as many copies as you wanted. The same can be said of Nightwing 130. It was in our top 10. I know that Kyle gave me endless amounts of crap over it, but I love that spicy pumpkin Nightwing butt shot right there. That is a $75+ book on the aftermarket. That was a $5 open order, or sorry, $6. I'm looking at the price right there. $6 open order. You could just buy as many copies as you want at $6, and it is now over $75 hand over fist on eBay. So a huge shout out to sexy male comic covers, a huge shout out to the craziness of the aftermarket and the love for these, and also a big reason of why to pay attention to our top 10s. I'm waiting to hear Kyle apologize about my Nightwing love.
Nope, because I'm just going to talk about hot dogs. So Batman, Deadpool, Batman, Deadpool, Batman were was one of the biggest pieces of news that came out of Comics Pro in February when we were there, even though they didn't tell us what it was. And then it happened. And it was a great big piece of comic business this year. And it was a great big book. And it was a good book. And so then it became, which one of these, how does this make the list? Is there one in your top 10? How do you feel about it? And so for me, I just went to one of my other favorite hobbies, which is eating. And so I just went with the Amanda Conner cover of Batman Deadpool #1, which is the Coney Island hot dog eating contest variant of this book. Again, this is one of them that I think every list is going to have on it, right? Everybody who does a top 10 books of the year or top, favorite books of the year, this book is going to be on it for most folks. So I don't think there needs to be a lot of explanation here, but just know that Harley's going to win this, right?
I would hope so. I mean, she just did an anniversary issue this past week too. One thing I want to point out really quickly: Batman, Deadpool, Deadpool, Batman. Two very similar titles, both #1s, completely different books. Jim Lee recently had to go on social media to emphasize that Batman, Deadpool, which came out after Deadpool, Batman, is a new book, new content, new creators, new storytelling. So if you got one and you didn't get the other, you got to fix that, because if you liked one, you'll love the other. All right. It was the year of blind bags. And obviously, one of the big ones, perhaps the second largest one, is my #6 spot. Mark Spears' Monsters and the Wolf blind bag. Mark Spears has 2 blind bags. He had another one that just came out last week. These are great ones. He only offered blind bags at a simple entry level price. There were over 75 different cover options in each of his blind bags, with the possibility of getting a golden ticket to get an original piece of artwork. There were foil variants, limited edition variants. In the case of this, there were Night of the Living Dead covers. I did not pull a single one, even though that was my big hope and desire, but I loved all the covers that I pulled out of this. This was just a fun one, especially if you love Mark Spears' art. I don't know how this man so prolifically puts out as much artwork as he does. It is insanity to me. It's him and Dan Mora, I think, just have an army of clones in their basement drawing away nonstop. But this was a good example of a great blind bag. Affordable cover price, all sorts of randomness you can get in, the chance of a big prize, but also the easy entry level. You weren't going to feel sour if you got a cover A in, this blind bag at that price point. This was a masterpiece. Well done. And my favorite is, this is the biggest blind bag from one of the smallest publishers, Keen Spot, putting this out. This wasn't a Marvel or DC one, not even an Image. Keen Spot, you nailed it. Great job. Huge, huge specifically. I mean, if not all of the credit to Mark Spears on that.
All right. So for me, Black Ritual, Book of Nyx #2. This is the Danny Earls variant. Black Ritual, Book of Nyx brought back a fan favorite character into the Spawn universe. In terms of Nyx, who, this was, she's the Queen of Hell in Spawn now, but this takes place in a period where you didn't know what she was up to. And you get this fun story of sort of her growing to become the character we know from recent Spawn. But what I like about this particular cover is that when Tom Mahealy was here on the show talking to us about this book, he mentioned that he saw this sketch on this piece of art on like a sketch card at a convention, and just immediately stopped to license it to be the cover for this book. Like, this is a guy this is an editor of TMP walking through a convention, and you never know who's going to walk up to your table at a convention. So you always want to engage with those people, because they may be buying your art to be the cover of a Spawn book.
I mean, it is one of the great, by no means was this a rags to riches story. Danny Earls wasn't, a known name prior, but this is just such a great tale that just seems to only happen in comics. You don't often hear of your favorite movie director just walking down the street of some small town and then saying, "Hey kid, I saw you in that musical at your high school production. We'd like you to lead the show of our next big film."
True. All right. Up
Top five
next.
time. Ultimate Spider-Man. This is one where I had to do it as the whole series. Ultimate Spider-Man, I think, is the flagship title currently coming out from Marvel. While it relaunched in 2024, the year of 2025 has been solid nevertheless as we wrap up its second year. Ultimate Spider-Man 13, obviously a huge launch for it as we get Richard Parker II becoming Spider-Man. You get some Craven in there. It is amazing. It has been a driving force and one of the top-selling Marvel books to every shop I've talked to. And it is sad that this is wrapping up with issue 24. But is it? We'll have to see the Ultimate end next week to find out. But Ultimate Spider-Man, just the all-star of Marvel and a great seller that has once again driven a lot of people into comic shops. And this is something I always love is this is a book that drove people who had been lapsed comic readers or people who have never read a comic into comic shops to buy books. And those are always gems that deserve a position in the top 10 in my book. I think this is amazing. And I hope that Jonathan Hickman is not through with this and comes up with more ideas that will drive more people to comics and hopefully more people to this show to place orders with their local comic shop.
All right. Number 5 for me is Matt Fraction Batman, but this is particularly number 3, Joe Quesada. Joe Quesada, who most people know from his time at Marvel, drawing a Batman cover. Like, you can't go wrong with Joe Quesada, and you can't go wrong with Batman. And he did just a killer job on this cover. And Fraction's Batman has been so good.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people were kind of, I don't understand it. I don't get it. It's so different. It's so this, it's so that. And Absolute Batman has overshadowed so much, but this really does stand out on its own.
I will say when they pulled Matt Fraction out back in February at Comics Pro to announce him as Batman, I was sitting on a laze of like, oh, whatever they're going to say about Batman, I could care less. But I was shocked. I was excited. I was all in. Of course, it took a long time from February to get to that Batman #1 release in the fall. And the malaise of it all started to set in once again. And I didn't think that Batman was going to have the love and success. The Absolute Universe was doing great. Batman Hush Volume 2 is waning heavily. I was not expecting this. And this Batman series, once again, took it by storm. The amount of new subscribers my shop saw come out of the woodwork for a new Batman series was phenomenal. It outsold Batman Hush 2, which was exciting in many ways. I'm sure part of it was on the heels of Absolute Batman, but I can't complain. This was a great one and definitely a solid, deserving number 5, Kyle. For me, when we get to number 4, it is DCKO. This is another big one up there with the absolute titles. Scott Snyder, Joshua Williamson. This is just an unbelievable understanding that DC editorial and creators have in this moment of what makes a book popular and sell. This one had a bit of a slower hit, even though we promoted the heck out of it on FOC. But everyone wants this book now. This is doing better than any other Marvel or DC event in the last decade, I think. It is drawing a ton of attention, and we haven't even gotten to the crazy DC crossover with IDW, Dynamite, Image Comics, and more in DCKO Battle Zones. It has a crossover with the main universe and the Absolute Universe. Everything about this is proving the folks at DC know what fans want right now, and this is a huge case of it. So we got a sneak preview of what's coming up.
All right, for me, Dick Tracy. Again, this is one that started in 24 and did most of its work in 25. But in particular, this cover for number 14 really kind of represent what Dick Tracy is and why he is the way he is, and sort of the backstory of the character. But every cover on this is this same sort of painted style that really does reflect the sort of crime noir. She was a dame, see, who walked into my office kind of feel that Dick Tracy has, while maintaining the very cartoony nature of both the villains and the good guys in this story. So I think Alex Segura did a great job writing it. I think Mad Cave did a great job of putting people with him throughout the series that really complemented his style and understood the assignment when it came to telling a Dick Tracy story.
And another really cool one is the wide, diverse range I would have never thought Dick Tracy would draw in. Previous Dick Tracy series have just bombed for me. This one, not only my father and my business partner's fathers, who are both men of a certain older age coming in for this, that obviously remember Dick Tracy from their youth, but I'm selling it to a lot of 20-year-olds also that are loving it just as much. So this is a crazily unexpected success in the form of this Dick Tracy. Number three, you might shock some of you guys that it's not higher up, is Deadpool Batman for me. The big crossover that started the big DC Marvel crossover of 2025 that will continue into 2026. This was the first big one. And I'm going to be dark enough to say perhaps the least entertaining of these super entertaining series. Because look, I'm not trying to be negative. Deadpool Batman was great. It sold out wonderfully. It's gone to multiple printings. It had countless covers. I don't think I've ever sold a comic in as high a number as quickly as I did Deadpool Batman, and I'm certain I am not alone on this. Talk to your store. I guarantee you they had success on Deadpool Batman, and it caught us all off guard. I thought I was ordering an ungodly amount, and it sold out within days. This is a great one, and it is a huge thanks to DC and Marvel helping comic shops and the comics community succeed with a great one. And the weird part, again, is as much as I love this, it still wasn't as good as Batman Deadpool or has me as excited as the upcoming Superman Spider-Man does.
Ghost Machine.
It's a big year for Ghost Machine.
Yeah, so I think Red Coat 11 is one of the greatest comics written of the last year. I think it was a truly excellent storytelling feat. But everything Ghost Machine has done this year has been great. From their cereal box cut variants to the Wicked variant that's coming out for Geiger 20 to all of these other things. So just shout out to everybody at Ghost Machine for doing a great job. Again, check out Ghost Machine.
Redcoat also getting a movie, and about a year ago, we had Jeff Johns talking it up here on the show. All right, number two, the blind bag that started the craze. Invincible Universe presents Battle Beast. This is obviously super hyped with Invincible being an amazing 3-season TV show with a 4th season on its way. This blind bag had everything. Cover price, you could get the amazing covers you want, the high ratio variants, original sketches, exclusive secret variants people weren't expecting, like Marvel Team Up 14, Invincible 18, the first Battle Beast, as well as an early issue of number 2. This was everything. This was perfection. This was brilliant. Thank you, Robert Kirkman and the team at Skybound for making one of the best things, but also damn you for creating a blind bag craze that no one will ever match the popularity and insanity of that one with it. 2026, they're continuing to try, but this was a game changer. Thank you, Skybound.
For me, number 2 is the Absolute Universe, particularly Batman and Martian Manhunter. Absolute Batman has been an absolutely wild ride. I really do enjoy this universe, right? This alternate universe that was created. And I'm not going to spoil how the universe came to be in case you haven't read this stuff yet, and kind of the driving factor behind all of it. But it's just such a unique look at a bunch of characters that, in my opinion, had gotten pretty stale. All of a sudden, this comes roaring onto the scene last year, and this year has just been an absolute juggernaut. Martian Manhunter, again, Dennis Camp, is one of the trippiest comics I've ever read. And what I like about it is that I can't predict what's happening. I don't know. There's no way to really tell, in that this book is telling a Martian Manhunter story in a way that's never been told before with the character John Jones. So it keeps you entrenched. It keeps you dug in. It keeps you coming back for more, because you never know which absolutely crazy thing is going to happen next to Martian Manhunter.
And that leads into my number one, which is the Absolute Universe. Ideally, the absolute trinity. If we could drop me from the visual for a second to take that in, it is absolute Batman, absolute Superman, absolute Wonder Woman. These three titles, sorry for the pun, absolutely changed comics. I have never had an ongoing comic series consistently sell at the numbers these three titles have, as all of them are, at least in my store, in the triple figures. These have built an audience issue after issue with countless printings on every single issue from every single one of these three titles. Scott Snyder, Joshua Williamson, along with Jason Aaron, Kelly Thompson, all these creators have brought in everything that comic fans and even non-comic fans want. I have never seen the demand, the rabid demand for comics like this. People who I've never seen in a comic shop coming in demanding so specifically certain issues or titles. I cannot thank Scott Snyder enough for this. This changed comic shops worldwide this year. Worldwide, every comic shop, I guarantee you, benefited thanks to this initiative. And it is still going strong with new absolute titles coming out in 2026 to accompany Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. This is like nothing else. Look, we've had big issues, deaths of characters, marriages, key issues, insane crossovers. These are ongoing series that are absolute juggernauts, with the sales in the teens literally surpassing the number ones. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. This is a huge thanks to Scott Snyder and all of the folks at DC, all of the fellow creators. I have not ever flinched at absolute Superman, absolute Wonder Woman, or absolute Batman. Every issue, my orders go up, and I am excited by that. This is unquestionably my big number one. A huge, huge shout out to DC and Scott Snyder. Unbelievable. But Kyle, you're grounding us a little bit with this big number. Actually, first, do you want to talk about that really quick absolute Batman story or no?
No.
Okay. Then
We'll save it for another time.
Amazing.
Yes. So my issue number one is Spectrum number 4 from Mad Cave. This is Rick Quinn and Dave Chisholm. Spectrum is one of those series, again, started in 2024, did a lot of its work in 2025, that every single issue made me emotional. I cried a lot reading this book. It was a really, really great story about creativity and about how sometimes you lose creativity to the noise around you, and about the music that is life, and so much of that sort of poetry around the creative arts. The reason I chose number 4 out of a 6-issue series is that you read the first 3 issues and you're kind of world building. You're kind of starting to understand the world that our main character exists in, who the good guys and bad guys are. And each story has little offshoots where it tells stories of musicians like Billie Holiday or Jeff Buckley, or Howlin' Wolf, or Blind Willie Johnson, or whatever, even though they're not technically those people in the book. These creators that had these different opportunities and then disappeared or flamed out or died early, and they tie all of that into our antagonists in this book. But in issue 4, you start to see where that antagonisticness, whatever, where the antagonists get their power, and it's about how we let them have it. Right? There's a lot in issue 4. You start to see kind of the turn of, we let that stuff in and let this other stuff go in favor of what's easy or in favor of what's in front of us, rather than fighting the hard fight to keep being creative, to keep seeing the world the way we want to. So issue 4 kind of is the peak crest of the mountain, and it comes down the other side, and it just, by issue 6, I was absolutely wrecked. And this was a great series, really well written, really well. Dave Chisholm's art is fantastic. It looks unlike anything you've seen. It does not look like another comic you've seen in a long time, if ever. So I really enjoy it that way as well. The cool thing about this book is that it's going to be really hard to get single issues anymore.
It is sold out.
Yeah, it's sold out, but the trade may still be available.
Trade is available.
Next week on FOC 12/5, and I may We have some different. Anyway, 12.5, the hardcover is on FOC with a brand new piece of cover art for the book. I think it's the most beautiful cover they've done. But so the hardcover will be out in March for this as well if you wanted to pick it up and read it that way.
January 28th, actually.
Or January 28th, sorry. Dave Chisholm has another book out in March. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, no, absolutely amazing. I got to say, I read this as it was coming out, and somehow you've reinvigorated the flame where now I need to go home and reread this. So yeah, this is great. If you haven't read Spectrum, Kyle is nailing this perfectly. You need to get it. Go to your store, see if you can track down the single issues, get the trade paperback on order, or FOC next week, the deluxe edition hardcover. All
Absolutely.
right. So that was 2025. It was a crazy year. We had guests on every show with the exception of these minor FOC weeks that ended the year. We talked about some amazing books, some ones that skyrocketed the aftermarket, shaped the industry, and otherwise might not have gotten a lot of attention. We've had a lot of wonderful people in the comments or have reached out to us after watching our live show when it's off the air, because that's something you can always do. And we love all of you who do that and still give us a like or a nod. We've got more in 2026. We have more guests, more books we have to talk about, some more insane news, and more comics that you're going to want to order at your local comic shop. We even have an incredible special guest already lined up, or I think a pair of special guests lined up for next week, right, Kyle? Maybe?
I don't remember. I have to go look at the email.
So definitely tune in because we're just warming up. More incredible books for you to order every week on FOC each Monday. We're live every Friday. The second the list gets finalized, with a guest who has a book on FOC. Don't miss that out. Huge shout out to people who are buying books based on a recommendation. So huge shout out to Unknown and others. I know Torma, Daniel Crary, who are great people who are in the industry that end up telling their comic shops what they need based on this show. And hopefully you can share this with others and more people get the comics they want, get comics in general, and support their local comic shops.
Absolutely. So it's a regular night the rest of the night here on The Experience. We'll have the original art show. We'll have Nancy McCann live from Comics Unlimited. And then Sunday, Jay and I will be back where we will be doing something on the Producers Live show. And then next week, make sure you're following us on social media so you get all the announcements of when shows are happening, what shows are happening as we navigate the holiday. We continue to navigate the holidays. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Matthias. Guys, go out to your local comic shop this weekend. Buy some stuff. We'll see you next time.